So I'm going to continue to implement the file editor. I decided to change the design and ask ChatGPT what it thinks. Because I was gonna do that anyway, but then I decided to do now because I think that's better. Because then I kill two birds with one stone. I learn more about the original text edit and code edit classes. Just gonna make it easier to change the find and replace bar. And at the same time, I do what I think I was gonna have to do anyway, which is just to change the design because the way that they implement the highlighting is not very good for what I'm trying to do. They use a more object-oriented approach, and I think that's probably better to have a composition-oriented approach, which is probably closer to the way that VS Code works. At least according to ChatGPT, but I also think that that's probably the case because VS Code works based on extensions, so I think that they have more classes and they separate the responsibility of each thing more. And the way that Godot works there, I just didn't like very much because they implement a base class for syntax highlighting, and then depending on the language, they implement a derived class from the base class, and just not scalable. So the design that I'm gonna try to follow, I think I'm gonna deviate from what ChatGPT recommended. He recommended this design here basically. So we have a symbol crafter, and this is just for the file edit or the code edit class, which I'm gonna replace on the other class, which is the code editor. So I'm basically splitting the file edit class now, and then I'm gonna see if I can, or see how to incorporate the code edit later, because there's a lot of code on these classes and it's very hard to understand. So I think I'm gonna have to take a lot of time to understand file edit first. Then once I see that I can compile and I have the different classes, then I'm gonna think about how to incorporate code edit. And then only in the future, I think I'm gonna think about the rest of the classes in the futures to add stuff like that. So I'm gonna work on the other classes after that, I think. But yeah, this is the design that ChatGPT recommended. So have a main class, which is symbol crafter, and then you have a text visualizer for the rendering system. And I'm basically splitting now the file edit between the symbol crafter and the text visualizer. So symbol crafter is gonna, like it says here, handle insertion, deletion, and navigation, and the text visualizer is gonna handle the rendering aspects. Then later on, I'm gonna put this is the thing that I said that I'm probably gonna do it differently. So ChatGPT recommends parser engine on the same class as token manager, but I think I'm gonna put probably token manager inside of a parser engine because I think it makes more sense. Yeah, and I'm gonna try to do some of the merging, but obviously not really sure if I'm gonna be able to. This is very complicated, and I'm trying to find like an approach that works. I'm gonna show the approach that I have right now. Which I'm trying to do now. So I went over the class, and then for each function, I went based on the declarations, I think. Based on the declarations, I found the definitions. And then for each one, I asked ChatGPT where it should fit better. Then I put all the declarations on these two different classes. Then I went over them again. And I wrote down the functions that have mixed functionality between the classes. So like functions that use both classes at the same time, because that's where you have conflict and that's where it gets very confusing. Because obviously if you have a function that's only uses stuff from one class, then you don't need to do anything, just put the definition. But the problem is on the functions that are gonna use functionality from both the classes. And to be honest, I didn't like the recommendation of ChatGPT, but I think there isn't better, at least for now. I can't think of a much better way to do this, which basically is on these situations. So I think it makes sense. The recommendation is basically to have a pointer for both classes on each other. So on Symbol Crafter, I have a pointer to the text visualizer. And that I think it makes sense, obviously, because you're gonna have anyway based on the design. And then on a function that is defined on the Symbol Crafter, I just call the additional functionality from text visualizer using the pointer. But the issue is on the other class, because it is kind of annoying to, because based on the way that it is, it's a lot easier to initialize the text visualizer by passing a point of the Symbol Crafter. And then on the functions of the text visualizer where you acquire the logic for Symbol Crafter, you just call from the pointer. And that's the approach that I think I'm gonna do, either initialize on the constructor or choose set as a variable and then check on the functions to see if the variable exists. But I don't like this approach. I wanted to avoid, but I think that there isn't a very good way to do this. But because of this, like, it made me think that maybe it's not the best to separate, but I think that it probably is, because like ChatGPT says, is gonna separate the concerns more. So like you kind of isolate the problems, and it makes it easier to think about like the other parts. So even though it feels kind of pointless, I think that's probably the best way if I want to scale and incorporate the other elements. So I went over each function, that is the mixed functions, and then I put the type. Hybrid is a function that could go either way, so you can implement on either class, which are the hardest ones, I think, to figure out. And like the idea that I have now that I'm thinking about trying to do is going over these functions and then defining them now on each class, and then resolving the dependencies that the class doesn't have, and then changing like additional stuff. But the obvious problem with this is that by changing one function, it might change a lot of other ones. So I don't want to spend a bunch of time thinking about like a more complex way to solve this. So I think it's probably better to just do like this and then iterate. To keep solving the issues and warnings and stuff like that until I have all the functions on both classes. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave the hybrid ones to implement later, because it's probably more confusing to do them. But the good thing about this is that, like, as I'm doing this, I'm learning more about the class, becoming more clear how it should work. So I do think that this is a good approach, because I think it's kind of complicated anyway, because it's a massive class. So the thing that I was gonna do now is go over function by function, and then just see how many times it gets called here, or how many times it's mentioned with these flags here. Because I think that's probably better to initialize the constructor. Obviously, I'm going to leave for last because it doesn't matter that much. Just initializing whatever. I'm just going to split between the two classes, whatever needs to be initialized from each class. So it doesn't really matter. And I think I'm going to leave I'm going to go over the functions, and I'm going to check how many times it's used. And I think that's a good idea to start defining the ones that get called the least amount of times first, because then it increases the likelihood that on the ones that get called more often, there aren't going to be too many other things that I have to change, because obviously they're the ones that were like the fundamental pieces were already translated. This one I'm probably gonna comment out because it's the text highlighting thing, so I'm gonna do it in a different way. But I'm still gonna put here some, probably gonna define this and comment it out. The most difficult ones are gonna be the draw, notification draw, and the inputs. They're very massive, so I think I'm gonna leave them for last. The color, I'm just gonna put yellow, I think. So after the first time that I go over them, I'm gonna put yellow, and then after I do all of them, I'm gonna check, I think. So the annoying thing is gonna be like compiling, I think. So either I'm gonna have to comment out everything else that wasn't defined, or I'm gonna have to define everything, but I think I'm probably gonna have to comment out because if I define everything, then it might be like it's gonna complicate more to see if there are errors. So I think it's probably better to comment out everything, but probably it's probably better to try to compile first and then comment out the functions based on the errors. Yeah, but I'm not pretty sure though. Another thing I'm contemplating that I'm not really sure is that I don't like very much. Like, I don't understand well enough to know if like I should change, but I don't like that much the way that they did things there because they created another class inside of the file or the text edit. It's called text, which is basically this variable here that I wrote down. There are several functions that the text is the problem, and it seems that it's just a additional class that they created to help manage the logic, but it feels kind of useless to me. So like, I'm not sure if I should. But if I'm gonna do that, then I'm probably gonna do it after I define everything. But it is kind of annoying, so I'm not really sure if it's worth it to. Because what you could do is just uh, implement the same functionality that they implement on tags, but then put directly on the other class. And this makes me think that there might be ways to simplify even more. So, but obviously I'm not really sure because both text and the original class, the file or the text edits, they use a lot of functions from the text server, and then it gets more into like the rendering server and stuff like that. So it gets more complicated to understand exactly how it works. But I'm probably gonna spend a lot of time on this class because I do think that it is very important and it's gonna help. Like regardless of which thing I do, I think that's probably one of the main classes. Stuff that is related to text is very important for anything, I think. So just it makes sense to spend more time on this one. These ones I know is gonna be one. I think the notification is probably better to leave for the like the end. So I'm gonna go based on the order here. So first I'm going to probably I'm gonna do based on the constructor, try to do based on the constructor first. And this is the class that I said that I don't like very much, is this text here. I don't know, there should be ways to simplify, I think, the class. Godot is the like this part here. It's the part on the left of the text. Usually shows the line numbers. The problem here is that it's gonna create like a circular dependency thing, but it's gonna be fine if I can forward declare, because then it's not gonna have a conflict on the header files. Because C++ works based on translation units, which is basically just saying it's C++ file and the headers that it has. So it compiles the C++ files first and then links them, so it connects them together. So if I have to include a header on another header, then I think it's gonna be a problem because it's gonna cause a circular dependency. But if I can do with this for declare, I think this is probably the main reason why I don't like doing this. But the thing is, like, I can't. There are other ways to do it, but that don't involve using the symbol crafter on text visualizer. But then it makes me feel that it's kind of pointless to do the visualizer because you would force the function to be on the symbol crafter. So one way that I suggested to ChatGPT is to pass the information on as arguments and then use as a heuristic the amount of arguments that can fit on registers based on most compilers conventions, which is around 6. But the problem with that is that there are functions from the text visualizer that are gonna call other functions from text visualizer, so that like they're encapsulated on the class, and in order to make the original function on symbol crafter, you would have to refactor a bunch of things. So it's kind of bad. The easiest way possible is just to pass a pointer from symbol crafter to text visualizer, and then because then you can call directly the functions or can use stuff from symbol crafter. So it becomes a lot easier, but it's more annoying. So like maybe I'll do this first. The way that I'm trying to think about is like incrementally doing things. So like one step at a time. Maybe you should put on the top. I think I'm gonna put there. Doesn't really matter. I'm gonna do this first. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to do everything first, and then I'm gonna have to. Because obviously, if I try to compile, it's gonna give a bunch of errors because I didn't implement anything. So I think the only way is to define all the functions, resolve the conflicts on these ones, then compile, then iterate over and over again until I have until it stops the errors. It's gonna be kind of annoying. I'll put below this one. Maybe it's probably better to put here. Let's visualizer. On this one, it makes more sense. It's more natural. Because it's just gonna be initializing inside of this class. Like this flow makes more sense to me because like this is the main class, so it makes sense that you're gonna have. It makes sense to use the pointer from text visualizer on this class. It's more natural. But the other way around is the problem. So like the other ways would be like using a callback, using signals to connect them. And it's like a fundamental problem because of the tree structures. So it's the exact same problem from React, and it's basically a fundamental problem. And whenever I have a tree data structure, you're gonna have this problem of like the nature of the tree forces you to have to pass information from the top to the bottom. And then the only way to go the other way around is like using these mechanisms of like signals and stuff like that. That's or you like either it's gonna increase the amount of arguments you pass a lot because obviously you're passing information from one function to the other, or you're gonna have these signals like create this weird thing where you make the states of the parent dependent on the reactions of the child. So the child has a event or something, or you call a function from the child, and then the child emits the signal, and then it changes the state on the parents. Then based on that state, you call the other function on the child again. Or use a callback, or use a global object, which is an external thing that's probably most of the time gonna be a global variable that allows you to do the bridge between the two things. And I think it's just because of the nature of the tree, so it incentivizes the information from top to bottom. The thing is kind of tricky is that obviously you can't really trust what ChatGPT is saying, so I kind of go in this direction, but it's kind of hard to know. But I think this way is probably the best. Incrementally implement the stuff. Then once you get to the point and you have more understanding of how everything works, then you think about how to improve, and then you can ask better questions to GPT to improve. So I'm gonna go based on the functions there. The ones that got called the list. And here I wrote down, initially, the first time that I did this, I wrote down the variables that were like the main source of the problem, the reason why they were mixed. Then the second time that I went over, I wrote down some additional stuff. Like on some situations, I kind of solved the issue by moving the either variables or functions from one class to the other. But then there were still problems on the function. I think I'm going to this is kind of the issue, is like how to make sense of the other parts. Because the thing that I'm not really sure, yeah, I think like this is kind of the problem, is that the only way to, so there's two different approaches. One is to increment everything that the functions use, but then obviously I'm gonna have to implement everything, so that's kind of the issue. So like for example here, I'm gonna have to define the implements this function here, and obviously I can choose to implement the other one, the place that this function gets called from, which is here. So in this case I would have to implement the GUI inputs right after to see if it's gonna work the way that I'm doing. But obviously the issue with this is that I'm gonna have to end up implementing all the functions. So that's kind of an issue. But then the problem with implementing this one by one is that it's gonna be harder at the end to see. Like this is kind of the whole issue with the dependency thing, because every time you change a function, it might change everything else, and then like you might solve one conflict in one point and then create other conflicts on the other parts. But I think the only way to do this, like the easiest way possible, because obviously there you can think about more complicated approaches. But I think that the most straightforward way is to probably just implement one by one and then think about it as you go. I think, yeah, the functions that this function uses, I think I have to implement right away. So I'm just gonna copy as I go. And I have to think about, so I have to see here first, just see if it's defined the correct place. Let me see. So this one I wrote down on the visualizer, makes sense. Everything related to minimap I put on the visualizer because it makes sense. The visualizer is supposed to have the rendering, so it's gonna take care of the minimap logic. I'm just gonna put here. Then I'm gonna have to implement this thing as well. I think this one is from the control class, so or canvas item, so it doesn't matter. So what was the issue? Uses tags declare reciprocal character, everything else. Oh. So the problem is the tags variable, and this part's the one that is annoying. I'm gonna implement this other one. Yeah, let me think about this. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should read the function first, and implement the parts. Yeah, I think that's how I should do the search. So I go over this based on the number of times that the function is called first. Then I go to the function, and then I investigate the functions that this function calls until I get to the one that doesn't have any dependencies or anything else. So like the smallest part possible, and then I go back from that point. Yeah, so that's probably the best way to do it. But this one, since I already started with this, I'm gonna continue like this way. Just implement one by one here. And this one is the one that's, oh, I implemented the other one there. Maybe I should do this now with this one. So instead of implement this one right away. But I think this one I'm gonna implement this way now, because I already started this way. But next one I'm gonna do the other way. Just gonna put there in the order. Or maybe I should comment everything else, or like try to compile comments everything else until I get to compile, and then uncomment as I go. I think that might be better actually, because I'm gonna do this one like this. So once I implement all the functions that are dependent here, then I'm going to try to compile and then comment everything else until I get to compile. Because I think it's better if I check, like for example, this stuff here. It's better to check now. Otherwise, like it's pointless to, let's say, implement everything and then it ends up that this approach doesn't work here. Then it's gonna make me have to refactor everything again. So I think it's probably better to like, compile as I go. And the issue is for each one of these, I have to see I'm not sure if I can. Okay, so I can search for the names here. Issues on each one, I'm gonna have to see if there is conflict. It's gonna be very annoying. Yeah, this one is easy. Oh, this one uses stacks, so this one has a conflict. I think probably the best way to do it is to just put everything. So I'm gonna write down on here where I stopped first, and then I'm gonna unpack this one first. So once I define all the functions that are related to this, then I go resolving the conflicts based on the ones that depend on the least amount. Now that I already started like this, I think that's probably better. So I have this one. This one is the one that I'm implementing. This one, yeah. So whatever. Once I unpack the other one, I start on this one again. I'll be right back. So once I'm back, I'm gonna unpack this thing here. I'm just gonna copy the functions like I saw, one by one, the ones that uses here. Once I have all the functions, then I go over one function by function, check the variables on each one, and then check where the conflicts are. And then I'm gonna think I'm probably gonna use ChatGPT as well. So like based on the some of the functions that I already saw as I was going through this in the beginning, I asked ChatGPT about them, and in some situations it recommends to create another function on the symbol crafter class to like simplify the logic. So the tags class it overloads the operator on the square brackets operator, this class here, and that those parts are annoying. So because if I can use get tags, I can like implement a function here called get tags or something like this, and then use the operator after, but it's not very good. So I think that for some situations, it's probably better to like create new functions on this one that already implement the logic for the tags, and then use those functions on the other one. But the tricky part is that like how can I keep track of everything? Because obviously I don't want to implement like let's say end up implementing the same function but with different names for whatever reason. So I think I'm gonna probably have to write down everything. And the other thing, like I'm gonna see based on the name here to see if already has it's not gonna show here because I don't have defined. So I'm gonna have to go over to this one. This is gonna be but this one I think is kind of relatively easier to put all this class DB stuff here. I think I'm just gonna do unless it gives a warning, but I think probably not. It's probably not gonna give a warning at the beginning because this is more for the editor and serialization. So I think at the end, once I have all the definitions, I'm gonna go over function by function to put the class DB types on each class. I think that's not gonna be very hard. It's just gonna be annoying and time consuming. So maybe what I do, so because I'm gonna have to define. So I think any logic that requires from text visualizer the functions from the symbol crafter, I'm gonna implement. So basically, I'm gonna resolve the dependencies based on these functions here. I'll be right back. The thing is that I can't really write everything. That's kind of the problem. I'm just gonna have to kind of go by memory. It's just easier, like the last spots that I stopped. Oh, fuck. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna have to do the constructor first, actually, if I'm going to go this route of testing everything. Because then obviously, if I don't do the constructor, I'm not gonna have the things there. But I think it's not that big of a deal. Hmm. Now that I think about it, I think for all this is gonna be on here, but I should test every time that I pass to see if the function is defined on the text visualizer and not on the other one. It's kind of overwhelming on the beginning, but it's probably gonna get easier the more functions I have. Line heights probably from symbol crafter. Yeah, I'm just gonna do. I have to see. I wanna see an error. So I have to do this and then define on the symbol crafter. And this one uses Steam Cache, just from the other one. So now I'm not really sure. So I'm probably gonna have to create another function for this, like to get the Steam Cache, because it doesn't make sense to create a unique function for each one to set the value. Oh no, this is on the text. It's not on the. So maybe this one's on the visualizer. So delete this. But now I'm not really sure because it could be. So it could be here. It could be a function that is currently on the visualizer, but it's supposed to be on the other one. Mm. Not sure if I can trust that thing. It doesn't look like this here. But I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this one because I'm not really sure about this. It is a mixed function, so I'm not really sure why I didn't write this there. Maybe I'm missing this. So I think I probably forgot to put this one. It's the only explanation that makes sense. So I'm gonna have to ask ChatGPT. It seems that this one, the issue is like knowing very well like what is supposed because it is like something that is related. But the thing is, it's kind of like a hybrid because like obviously rendering is gonna be involved with line height, but I think it's probably better suited for symbol crafter because the symbol crafter maybe I can go based on the line width that I saw that has here. Get line width. Yeah, get line width is from the symbol. So yeah, I'm not gonna ask if the thing is probably gonna be for symbol crafter. So I'm gonna move this one from here. It looks like this one is here as well, and it's supposed to be on the other one. And it makes more sense. The wrap I think is from the wrap is defined here and it's supposed to be here. I'm not really sure what is the purpose of the wrap, but I think it is when, like for example, when you change the size here, to wrap the line. I think that's what this is about, but I'm not 100% sure. And then for that reason, this ChatGPT recommends for these kinds of functions to be on the text visualizer. So it probably makes sense. But the other ones, I think it makes more sense to put them on the symbol crafter. So I should probably define them here as public. I'm just gonna move from the other one. I'll go back here. And I have to define the line height from the text as well. The text functions I should probably define. I should probably do this first actually. Define all the text functions. Yeah, I'm just gonna do all of them. Because the text functions they're not mixed. Because obviously they're gonna be all from the class. So they're gonna be on the symbol crafter because symbol crafter is the class that is defining the text or declaring. So I'm just gonna put all of them. I think I'm gonna do it at the end, maybe. Or I should just follow the pattern. I'm just gonna follow the stuff that they did there. I'm gonna ask GPT what it thinks is the best way to. As this is probably not gonna work, because I think this is private, so I'm probably gonna have to create a function. It's not very good. That's or maybe I can use the set theme override. And I was gonna search for this as an examples of errors, so I can use the same. This one I'm not gonna put because I know that there's also gonna be. But this one is necessary to put. Maybe you should put these functions below. I'm gonna put these getters below, I think. Below here. Scroll. And so this is another one that's gonna be mix because it uses the text here. So obviously one option, I think I'm gonna do this option. You just put another function. This is already a function from the text. Guess I can use get text and then since it already has that. Save this. I may finish copying everything first. So they both depend on the same function. So I think once I resolve those ones, I can start trying to clean up their conflicts. I'm gonna do the constructor after I do this. And this one is from this class. I'll do both of them probably. Let's move this here. There's like, I think after I do all of them, I go over the spreadsheets again, and then so I'm gonna do everything, like get all the functions, resolve the conflicts, put the constructor, the necessary variables. I think I'm gonna do the full constructor. Then try to compile, iterate till I get it right. Then go over the spreadsheet again, mark the ones that I have, and then keep going till I have all the conflicting functions. I think once I have all of them, it's gonna be easier with the rest of them. So the rest is just gonna be going over the classes, the declarations, and then uncommenting function by function, and defining as I uncomments, probably. So I'm gonna have to solve on this. This one is the one that's it's here. And each puts there or I don't like these recommendations. The problem obviously is gonna be that for each thing that uses, I'm gonna have to get or create a function to get. I I don't remember really well what is the name, but I know that there is a function to set the thing overrides, I think. That is related probably to the theme cache. And there should be, I think it's just get theme icon is one example. So maybe it's get theme constants or something like this that I can use. But I'm not really sure if I like it very much as well. 'Cause it seems kind of unreliable. The biggest concern is not the stuff here, is like the overall thing that I'm not like I don't know if I can trust very much this approach from ChatGPT. because I think it is kind of like, I do think that it makes sense. That's the thing, though. Like it does make sense from like just common sense. If you're gonna do the editor and you want to have a lot more features, it does make sense to separate the concerns of each class with something different. But what I'm not 100% sure is the relationship between the two different classes. And I think this is just hard to figure out because I don't know very well how the functionality works on the original class. It's kind of hard. Not only is hard to draw the line, but it's getting easier to draw the line between what should be the responsibility of one class and what should be the responsibility of the other class. But what is harder is to think about like how I think it's the refactoring thing because like I said at the beginning, the it doesn't seem like, but it's just an intuition thing. I could be wrong, obviously. But based on my intuition, it seems that there should be ways to simplify this. Like I don't like this approach very much here. It seems overly complicated. And this is kind of the annoying part. Because I asked this question to ChatGPT as well. Uh, like if you have mixed functions, like in some situations, ChatGPT recommends you like split the logic of the function between two different functions, and then you just separate between the classes. But then it goes back to the whole dependency thing, and that's the part that is hard because everything is gonna be connected. So if you change one thing, then it's gonna affect everything else, and that's kind of the issue. And this is the point that I'm not really sure about, like if this way makes sense. Then the main thing goes back to the like whether or not you initialize this class by passing the pointer to the other one. But then the question is if it wasn't like this, then like what would be the other approach? Because I think that's like there isn't I think that's the key aspect, I think. It's like in order to simplify that as much as possible, I think that you have to ensure a new unidirectional data flow between the symbol crafter and the text visualizer. Like the text visualizer should be only like receiving the data that is already managed. So like the symbol crafter is like a filter. So you have the inputs of the user, then goes through symbol crafter. It splits the logic between different responsibilities. And then only the logic that is supposed to be used for rendering directly goes to the text visualizer. So if that was the case, then obviously you wouldn't need the symbol crafter. That's the thing. So I think is for that reason I think that's like it's making me think that like it shouldn't be this way, which is kind of frustrating. Because it makes me think that the like the design of the functions in the first place is kind of off because the separation of concerns. And I think that's the case because of the like the because I'm obviously essentially like translating from the original design into this one. So like the original intended organization of the logic, because that's what the functions are. They just split the logic. It doesn't make a lot of sense. That's kind of the problem. The abstractions are wrong, I think. That's the problem. But it's the debate that I have right now is like whether or not you, because I do think that probably it is better to try and to like incrementally implement everything and then change after. But I'm not 100% sure about this because it might be like a lot more work after. Like especially if I follow this approach here, it's kind of. And for this thing specifically, I mean, maybe I should just do like an extra function for themes. I think the get theme constants is the one that they use. I think I can try using this one. Yeah, I'm gonna try using this. Problem is that I'm not pretty sure if it's gonna work. Like, when the classes put this cache, this team cache variable, they use the macros on the bind methods, and there is some stuff that I explained last time, but I kind of forgot already as well. It's just a callback function that the macro sets up, and then is related to the way that the class is gonna get or is gonna update the values. But I'm not really sure if it's related. So I think I'm gonna try to do it this way. Just use this get team constant for now, and then I'll think about the rest later. I'm just gonna I have to see if I can find the property. I should be line spacing on text edit. That's the part I'm gonna have to remember, I think. It's gonna be based on this. Yeah, this one, this one. I'm not really sure. So maybe on this I can see if there is the name here. So I think that the second one's gonna be the name of the class, and the first one's gonna be the name of the thing. I think this will be line spacing here. And then based on the name here, there's gonna be a text edit. There's this. I'm gonna try like this first. I should implement this one. The thing that is kind of annoying is still the like deciding the line between the classes. I forgot where I'm at. As I'm just gonna go over one by one again. I think I implemented everything here. Yeah, all the functions. Just to make sure that this was the first one that I was implementing. I'm gonna go over one by one. Just and this one is there. So over this one. This one has that one. I should go over like should check after. So first, figure out if I have all of them. There. This one. Okay, I don't have this one. I think this was the last one. And it's hiding enable. I was gonna put both of them. Yeah, this one is from the symbol crafter, I think. I should write down this thing here so I can always reuse this stuff here. On all the places that this one's gonna use the theme cache. But maybe I should spend more time thinking whether or not it's worth it to do this. In order to avoid having to refactor later unnecessarily. And maybe I should move. Problem is that if I move the theme cache, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, this is another thing I'm gonna have to see actually. Now that I think about it. But I think this one, if I remember correctly, I did the inheritance based on this. But I don't remember really well. I don't remember if I did it on the symbol crafter or if I did it on both. Also, this just inherits from control. And this from control. I'm gonna have to put the enums. So, not the enums, the macros. The macros are probably the thing that allow for having the values on the class. And they probably have to check to see if it's a default theme thing or if it is a text editor. Yeah, so they do have here. So it is on the default thing. And because it's related to theming, I think it does make sense. The thing is, it kind of depends though. It depends on the way, because like it would make sense as well to put on the symbol crafter, because the symbol crafter is like the interface. So even though the theme is related to the visualization, there needs to be like it's easier to have. Let's say I put more additional themes later that are related to the other. But the problem is there wouldn't be anything, I think. Everything that is visual should be handled by the text visualizer. So maybe this way is the correct way. The problem is these kinds of things here. This highlighting is obviously not going to be on this class. And this is going to be kind of complicated. There's also caret color. And the complicated part is that these themes here are probably gonna depend on other stuff. And the issue is obviously because I don't know yet, because I haven't implemented how the other parts are gonna work together with this one. It's very hard to think about like how most likely is gonna impact the information here, how they're gonna be linked. So maybe it does make sense to put on the other class. If I ask GPT, I think it's gonna say to leave it on here. So it's not very good. Sure, ask. But it's probably better to move everything. I'm gonna focus on moving everything. Then I refactor, if I want to refactor after. I think I should probably every time that I get define one of these getters, I should probably define the setter. But I'm gonna do this next time, like for the future ones, the ones that I already have there. Or maybe I should go over now, because then like it's easier to put them like make sure that I put them side by side or like right next to each other, so it's not confusing. And this one's gonna be from the symbol, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one that's no. I copy this right here. I didn't finish these ones. Actually, it's probably better. Put here. I need to put this one. It's kind of overwhelming. There's too much stuff going on. I just kind of start losing track of the stuff that I put there. I'm gonna copy this stuff here. I'm also gonna have to, so I think I'm gonna have to do the bind methods now. At least I'm gonna do the theme cache stuff now. I don't remember if I copy this. I didn't. I'm gonna put here. And these ones I'm just gonna put all down. No, this one's probably not. Sorry. So constructor first, then I'm gonna copy everything on each one, and then just remove the stuff that I can't find on the class. This one I'm pretty sure is from symbol. Cards. That's probably from control. Yeah. Control as well. Control. And then I'm gonna do, so I have to do, yeah, do the first, I'll do on the other one as well. And I'm going to do, I think, only the macros and the functions that I have so far for the bind methods. Because I think that it wouldn't break the other ones, but it's probably better to just do it now. Here's from here. Oh, this one, I think I skipped. So, I should probably do these functions as well, so I don't forget. I'm gonna look, if they're too complicated, I'm not gonna do it. But if they're simple, I'm just gonna put them. Any place, it's supposed to be here. For this one, I think I'm gonna do another function. It's just easier. I create a function on the text visualizer and then I replace the whole thing here. This one. I think I finally have all the functions. So now I have to go over one by one and just check everything, all the conflicts, and resolve. But the main thing that I have to think about is whether or not to. I think, like I said, I'm just gonna keep doing like this and figuring out, and then after I have the two classes, I think about refactoring, but I'm not 100% sure. So I think I'm gonna stop streaming here. I separated 2 hours for this. Just wanted to stream today to show the progress and talk about like what I'm the strategy that I'm trying to implement for now. But I think that this is going to be very boring, so I'm just gonna stop streaming here. I'm gonna do this off stream. So I just have to go over all of them now, I think. So probably what I'm gonna do is just uh, try to compile. But I think before I do this, I'm going to manually go over them because they're like it's kind of easier I think to go variable by variable first, and then like resolve the obvious conflicts first. So like I go from the top here, then double check to see if I implemented all the functions so far. That's all these other functions need. And then for each variable, like the thing that is kind of annoying is that I have to go with this one as well at the same time. But I think probably I try but to see, like to make sure that the functions are on the correct place, I have to look here, I think. Because maybe I find here, I search here, and it seems to be correct, but on the spreadsheet here is supposed to be on the other class. And then if I change the function, it might change everything else. So I think what I have to do is look over the spreadsheets and as I go over this, and then resolve the conflicts as well. And this thing about the theme cache is kind of annoying. Like the thing that is annoying me the most is this stuff that's like putting the pointer on both classes. It seems wrong to me, but I don't think that there is a like there is a better way, but it's not simpler. Like it's gonna take more time if I try to figure this out now, I think. So it's just I kind of the best thing to do is probably just to accept that this is the situation and just implement the classes first and then have the whole thing and make it compile. Then only after that I think about whether or not it's worth it to try to refactor or try to get another approach or start implementing the rest of the stuff. But the main reason why I think that's probably better to do this now is that it's going to help me build the other classes because I'm going to have a better idea of how this works. These classes work here. And it might be better to think about like the design and like set things up in a way that after I finish the other classes, it's going to be easier to implement the other features. I think that's what I'm because on the other classes as well, so everything's going to be connected, obviously. So I need to have a clear picture of how this is supposed to, or how, yeah, like the best way to structure this so that later on it's not very annoying. So I think that if I move on to the other stuff now, then it's probably more likely that I'm gonna have to spend more time refactoring later because either way, you can't really avoid, obviously, 100% until you build. But I think it's more likely that I would have to like change things because I would build on top of a design that doesn't make sense for what I'm doing. So I think that if I didn't change this class now, then when I build the find and replace bar and when I build the other components, it would be based on the object-oriented approach for the syntax highlighting, and there will probably like be signals and stuff like that that would be directly correlated with the design of this, and then I would build things with that in mind and would understand very well the way that the class is supposed to work, the tags, the way that it processes the tags. So if I went then after building that, if I went back, it would make it more likely that I would have to change the classes twice. So first time I build on top of a wrong foundation. Then I change I realize the foundation is not what I wanted, and then I would have to refactor, and then I would have to refactor again the class that I already built. So I think it makes more sense to just spend a lot of time on this one and make sure I really understand and follow this design here. I don't trust the ChatGPT thing here. After thinking about it, like I said, I think that the best way is to do like this, where the token manager is inside of the parser, because it's obviously a lot easier. Like it's just basically the same thing to expose the functionality to the symbol crafter. And the only difference is that I'm gonna get the tokens by calling functions on the parser engine. But it makes a lot more sense to me because the parser is gonna use the token manager anyway, the logic. So, and if I put like if because obviously I'm not really sure what I'm going to implement, but if I implement more complex logic on the parser engine, then obviously it's going to need the token manager. So if I implement this design here, where the token manager is at this level, it's going to be a lot more annoying to transfer the information from this to this, because I'm going to have to go over the symbol crafter And you would get into the problem that of the tree that I talked about before, that the relationship, the tree structure incentivizes the relationship, the flow of information should be from the top down. So if I do like this, I think this way, and the reason why ChatGPT recommends this way is probably because the highlighting is easier when you have the tokens, I think. It's like it makes sense. First you create tokens out of the text, and then based on the tokens you can encode logic. It makes it easier to set up the visualizer because you have like chunks of text you can put metadata on. But it's basically the same thing if you have the token manager inside of the parser engine. So I think that probably makes more sense. And I'm gonna bet on this design, I think here. And then there might be a need to have another class like a document or something, or like some other class that I'm gonna put on Symbol Crafter. But I think initially it's just gonna be, and obviously I'm gonna focus on these two first until I get to the point where I have the functionality from text edit and code edit first, but on these two classes. Then I'm gonna implement the beginning, just like integrate superficially the parser engine. Probably just put a pointer on the Symbol Crafter, and after I do this, I'm probably gonna continue to try to implement the other classes, the other docs. Then once I have all the other docs, I'll go back to this one. Also, I'm gonna have to probably integrate this with the FS or file system presenter, which is the class that has the files. So I might have to do this before I implement the other container, which is going to be the terminal. But yeah, if this works, I think in this design it's kind of likely that it's going to be easier to integrate the other class with this one. It's gonna be based on signals. Yeah, but I'm gonna focus on this first. So I'm gonna do this stuff off stream. Next time with the stream, I'm probably just gonna continue to implement this stuff here, this design here. Or actually, after I finish this, I'm gonna implement the find and replace bar, but it's still on the same classes. But probably that's what I'm gonna do next time. So see you then.